And now it's time for Panola Pride with your host, Jerry Hansen.
Good Thursday morning and welcome to another edition of Panola Pride, the heartbeat of East Texas. It's History Lesson Day again, and Mrs. LeGrone is with us, and we're glad that our listening and viewing audience is with us as well. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning.
Let's see, a little announcement that we need to make. The
Right.
Old Jail Museum and the LeGrone Family Historical Center will be open for free tours. How about that? During the Tex Ritter Roundup, and that's coming up not this weekend, but next weekend.
Yes, that's
It's
right.
right here on us, is it not?
Yes, we'll be there to host people through to see what we have, and we're proud of it. And they've all helped us do it, so we want them to see it if they're interested.
Very good. And that will be both Saturday and Sunday?
Yes, we'll be there both days.
All righty. Interesting program that you have with maps and all today.
Well, we had a gift this week of a map, and I couldn't bring it because it's kind of large, and it's a real treasure. Dr. Parker, John Parker, who is the grandson of Miss Jabe Parker, who had the big White House across where the Central Baptist Family Center is now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, her grandson is a doctor in Plano. And he has come several times to study in our library. Well, he's interested in maps, and I am too. I'm a map bug. I feel like if I can see a picture of what I'm talking about, I can understand it better. So we're accumulating old maps, and I hope that anybody that has some old maps that they don't care about anymore will give us a chance to look them over, because we're building a file of early maps that show places and events that aren't on maps today, and that would help us with research. But this map that Dr. Parker sent is a real treasure. It is a land grant map of Panola County. Every little piece of land has the name of the grantee on that land. Now we have a wall map, a great big wall map of the same thing, but it was put together at a later date, and it's up on the wall, and it's not easy to study where your ancestors were when you have to stand and stretch to the big wall map. This one is the size of a table, and it can be laid on the table to study. And it was prepared, it was drawn at Austin in 1879. That's considerably earlier. Actually, the land grantees were not all properly recorded till about the time of the Civil War, or around about. And so this is just as the Reconstruction was over. So this is a treasured map. Dr. Parker wrote a letter with it, and I thought I might explain the value of that map. And thanks to Becky Austin, we have it in plastic now, so it won't be damaged by handling.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody that's interested to just get down and study that map can just put it on the library table and go after it. And we haven't had one that good before, and it is beautiful. And Dr. Parker says, "Dear Ms. LeGrone, I'm sending you a reproduction of an original Panola County map published in 1879 by the Texas General Land Office. I had 12 copies of this map made, and it closely resembles the original on this paper, on this special paper. It resembles the original map in texture paper, and it's supposed to be permanent archival paper. And it is so neat and so beautifully done that we're proud of it. He says one of the primary reasons for printing these maps by the land office in the beginning was to clear the arguments over land, and we'll go into that in a little bit. I felt like that we needed to back up, and we never have talked about how the people got here, and if I've judged right, I've been back over a list, and I want to say here, before we go any further, that we do appreciate the tapes that you have donated to the library, and I'm in the process, that's the tapes of this program, I'm in the process of reviewing them one by one and indexing them so that we can find any one that we want to. And the members of our organization are very, very excited about
Very
this
good.
too, because they've missed most of the programs because most of them work. And not that this is just a program for people that don't work, but many times people are not available
Right.
to hear it. Anyway, these will be available. We started this program in '89, and if I counted correctly last night, I believe this is the let me see, 214th one program. Now then, in those years, there have been some breaks. At spring break time, we wouldn't have one, or the special holiday time, something else would be going on. But basically, we've had one every week since '89. And I never had seen them, so it's news to me. But it's a slow process of indexing them. And for historical researchers, if you don't have an index to go by, you're just lost because you don't have time to see them all when you're trying to find something. But anyway, these are based on the history of the county, so in the area. So they will be of value right on. And some of them are real good, and we appreciate them.
Quite welcome.
And seeing these tapes right at the time this map came, and I realized, well, we haven't actually talked about how the people came into the county ever. I went back through all that list and how people came into the county, and I brought some small maps, but not the big maps that we can work with. This is an early map, and on it, it could be enlarged more, but this one is dated for the U.S. Army in 1850.
I'm going to move toward the camera.
Okay, 1850, and I took a green pen and drew the roads in. Of course, they're not in that original map, but there were 3 routes that came from the southern states into Texas, and those 3 routes, they came up Red River to the Shreveport area and then across land, and that was one of the routes. They came across Shelby County, coming in along about St. Augustine on the Kings Highway, or Camino Real, as the Spanish called it. That was a second way. That came in from the southern edge of Panola County. The ones coming up Red River came in from the north corner over toward Shreveport. Then the third route that came was down Trammell Trace. And Trammell Trace is the western side of our county, of course. And I think you can go through there now. It was closed for a while, but I believe a road goes all the way through along our county line to Russ County now. So there were 3 ways. Now this is one of the things that I wrote to Mr. Michener about when he started doing his book on Texas. I wanted him to know that we had a special county here in East Texas, because most of the people who write about Texas just write about ranching in the West, and if you're not a cowboy, you're not a Texan, and so on. Well, they raised cattle here, but it was farm cattle, and it was not big ranches then, and so they don't tell the story of East Texas. So I wrote to him a letter and told him that Panola County had much valuable history. And one thing was, it was the only county in the state that had the western boundary spelled out and the eastern boundary spelled out before there was a state of Texas. And I explained to him the international boundary, which was between Texas and how 300 and something years it took to settle that boundary. And then the western boundary was Trammell Trace, which was an old Indian trail, and finally Mr. Trammell cut the timbers out and made it a road. And he wrote me a letter thanking me for it, but he didn't use any of it. But and we still, weren't even discussed. East Texas wasn't in his book. Anyway, they did come through here. And when we had the War for Independence, the eastern side of Texas is what was settled. Austin's colony was near the center, of course, near the Austin area. But West Texas, of course, was still totally unsettled. And actually, in this county of Panola, that is now Panola, it wasn't then, was settled on the eastern side before it was on the western side, because that's where they got to first.
Mm-hmm.
And they found a place they liked, and so they just dropped anchor, so to speak. So this is the way settlements came in. They came in. Now, the Trammel Trace route came through Old Jefferson and Marshall and right down the western side of the county. And the earliest group of people that came that route and settled down were the Martins. And of course they named Martins Creek. And the Martin, we have a lot of Martin stuff over there on the western side of the county. And then from the south, coming up from the Nacogdoches area, and this would be people connected with Kings Highway and Trammel Trace, came up from the south. This was Reed, Reverend Isaac Reed, and he settled near Clayton on that side of the county. And then from the Shreveport route came the Lagrones and all of their delegation and settled on the east side. And in the meantime, there were many other families that were coming across that way. There was a catch to that. I'm not going at all by the list I made out for you, the order, but then this is the way it happened, so that's okay. There was a catch to where they could settle. Now then, this land, first, when they first became interested, there was a depression in the south, and Southerners were having a hard time holding on to their land. So they began to advertise free land in Texas, and they just moved off away from what they had, just left it. And they'd leave a sign on the door, GTT, gone to Texas, and just take off. And wherever they found a place after they got into what they knew was Texas, they settled down to explore, and many times stayed. Well, they had some restrictions on where they could settle and what they could do. And first of all, Spain was owned Mexico and Texas and all this property. But in 18 and 20 and 21, Mexico fought Spain and got its independence. And so they went into another kind of government under Mexico. Well, during this Spanish occupation, when it was still part of Spain, they had a way of granting land that was very similar to what we have now, 640 acres for a man with a family, and then some more land for the wife and some more land for the children and so on, depending on the size family. Well, after Mexico got her independence in 1821, the land grants were different. And the Mexican land grant was League and Labor, or labor. I've heard some call it labor, but I've always called it labor. That's what it spells. Anyway, a league of land was granted to any adult man who came to Texas in pre-revolution days. Well, a league of land's a pretty good chunk, over 4,000 acres, 4,420-something acres in a league. And here the Spanish grants were 640 acres, considerably different amount of land. And so the Mexicans had plenty of land, looked like it'd never run out, you know. And so if he could prove himself, now these are the things he had to go through. First of all, that land could not be next to the United States because they didn't trust the United States. They could not be next to the Gulf of Mexico because they might be invaded that side. All of that was to remain Mexican property, not Anglos that would come in from the United States. So all of the part we now call Panola County and most of Rusk County, Harrison, and all this along the border was prohibited. But that didn't stop people from settling down. They just became squatters. And we were nearly ready to get our independence before those land grants could be perfected. 1835, well, that was about nearly 15 years. They'd been coming in, a few trickling in, and they claimed the land against the law. Many of these people that settled in the east, especially in the eastern side, I believe the measurement was 53 acres, was wide across the border, could not be settled. And yet it was the most densely settled part when we declared our independence. We had more representatives going to the conventions, conferences, planning and making arrangements for our independence convention. Anyway, this was two different ways of measuring land, so proving the grants were hard. And then, when we got our independence in 1836, we went back to the American way of 640 acres as a grant, And so there were three ways of measuring the amount of land a guy could get. And these maps became very important. The picture on a map, now I have a put together one here that I can drag around. This is the river that goes right diagonally across.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the names of the people, and these are just little squares all over the place, depending on how much land the family was granted, how early they came, how much land it had to be surveyed, the total price to get it tended to for a league and a labor of land was $30 for the league, which was over 4,000 acres, and $3.50 for the labor. Now, here's the way the Mexicans spelled it out. If they were going to raise cattle, they needed big, expansive woodland, and that was the league. And if they'd want to farm some patches, that would be the food that they needed. So that was 177 acres in the labor, or labor. And so he had 4,428 acres for pasture land and 177 acres for farm, corn and maize and whatever he raised for food stuff. All right, all of that now was on his land, and the size of his grant made a lot of difference. And it took a total then of $33.50 to get all of that officially done. And yet, in the change of government all that time, there were questions on the land. And so we had all kinds of illegal land grants handed out with fictitious names on them and everything, and that's what brought all kinds of feuds and, that ran into warfare. So the reason that these maps are so important is that began to help people find themselves, because here was a whole expanse of land, and where do we fit in that, that expanse? And I think modern surveyors are still surprised at how accurate those surveys were. Don Austin is doing a lot of surveying now, of course, in the county, and he finds again and again that they're pretty accurate. To have had just an immense amount of land there, but yet the surveyors were able to go through these woods and establish lines and all that. It's mysterious how they could do it. Well, further about the importance of those maps. One primary reason, he said, was to help understand these different ways of granting land. And he gives an explanation. Dr. Parker is interested in all the research we're doing, and as I said, he's been down several times, but he's a busy man, and he thinks that we can just turn loose and meet him and let him do special study anytime. And I have several Saturdays gone down and opened the library especially for him, because he is a direct descendant of old Dr. Reagan at Beckville. Mm-hmm. And we have much of that information, of course, that's been brought to us, and so he wants to know about it. Now, this set of maps, he says, was bought. And I saw the catalog of these at the time it happened. This set of maps, done in 1879, was bought by Barker Library in Austin. They were put on sale, and they were bought for $75,000 in 1991, 2 years ago. There are approximately 400 maps in the set, and this is one of those 400.
Wow.
So you see that they're valuable for the whole state, but this is our little chunk, and it is available for everybody to look at it and see. Here's where great grandpa so and so landed when he came to this county, and he goes on to say that he wanted us to have this one because it is, he says, a tribute to the land managers of Panola County, because it's just perfect. It's clean, not a mark on it that doesn't belong there. Now there are some other maps, and he tells me how to investigate that have notes written in on them, and this may be a help to us if we can get some copies of that. So we'll try from the library in Austin to do that. I don't know. I just put my neck out and say, could we get so-and-so? But a good map collection is worth so much when you're doing this research. And to see the roads they came and why they stopped here. You know, maybe they stopped to fix a wagon wheel, and they liked what they found. Game was plentiful, you see, and so we had early settlements that they didn't have other places because people came through, they liked what they saw, and they didn't go any further. The Martin settlement developed because there was a little log shack there, and they stopped to rest, and they never went any further. And all that Martin land back in there, of course, was a result of that.
Mm-hmm.
But these things are important to us to trace who we are, where we came from, and how they got here, and why. It was just tremendous.
Once again, a very good program.
Well, thank you.
It's always interesting.
And I want to give credit to Mr. Lawrence Sharp's book. He spells this land grant business out real well. And we've talked about him and his contribution to the history of this county in his book on early Panola County.
And to Dr. Parker.
And to Dr. Parker for sending this. See, we have a lot of important people that have their roots right here, and their influence has helped us get where we are.
Very good. Ms. LeGrand, thank you once again for a very interesting program. And may I remind our viewing and listening audience that during the Tex Ritter Roundup coming up next weekend, the 16th and 17th of October, that the J.O. Museum and LeGrand Family Historical Life Center will be open, and you may have a tour through there, and we encourage everyone to take advantage of,
yes,
of all of that.
We won't be conducting study because we can't do that and conduct tours. But we will tour you through to see what we have.
Come in and visit if you haven't had a chance. Excellent opportunity to do so. Ms. LeGrand, thank you once again. Hope you have a great week, and we look forward to our visit next week, right before the Tex Ritter Roundup.
Right before, right.
To our viewing and listening audience, thank you for being with us. The High Sheriff of Panola County, our guest tomorrow, will be coming to you live from the Panola National Bank Drive-In. You can drive by and wave and get a cup of coffee, eat a donut, to help them celebrate their 10th anniversary, and our program will be coming from the bank. So we invite you to join us then. Until then, though, have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in to Panola Pride this morning on KGAS 104.3 FM, 1590 AM with your host, Jerry Hansen.
The county fair is a gift giver's paradise. The county fair has hundreds of gifts for all occasions.
With your host, Jerry Hansen.
When they were real young in high school. And I'd say...
Another edition of Panola Pride, the heartbeat of East Texas. We have a very interesting program today, and our guest is Mrs. LeGrand, and we'll be talking about the history of the East Texas area. First of all, let me make an announcement. The Panola County Historical and Genealogical Association will they'll be making tours of the library, and that will be those tours will be free. And you're going to do it both Saturday
Yes.
and Sunday of the
All the
Texas River
hours
Roundup.
of the festival.
And they do remind everyone, because of the tours, that no study will be allowed through the resources during